You mentioned one word that stuck with me, and you said encroach. And I'm going to say this: if you're doing your job right, you're not encroaching. You're part of the process. And if the production looks at it like, I mean, look, if you're going to put 9-foot tall blue aliens in the shot, or you're going to do 10-foot tall robots. I did Real Steel, where we were there every day on set. I'll talk about the robots because that's more fun anyway, to a certain degree. Because we did a lot of it was this live action mix. It was this live action CG mix. The idea is that everybody's in it together. You're involved with the director of photography. You're talking to the director. You're talking with the art director, and you're working as a team. Everybody's a filmmaker. And to me, gone are the days where, you know, the CG guys just kind of stand in the shadows and we'll get what we can do. And I mean, you're part of the process. You have to be part of the process. And if you're not part of the process, the film's going to suffer for it, or it's just going to. And the key to make that happen is you can't hold their day up. You can't be these little guys who are off in the corner. Hold on, I got to go get my HDR. You know, you can't be that way. You have to be an active member of the team. Talk to the grips. They're your buddies, man. Talk to the electricians. They're your friends. These are guys who can help you do your job better. And if they understand what you're doing, that's the biggest thing you can do. My greatest, if I can impart any knowledge with this thing, is all those guys who are out there on those making movies every day, day in, day out, make them your friends. Learn what they do and teach them what you do, because they want to know. They really do want to know, and they want to help. Most of these guys are really helpful if you just explain what you need. And you talk to the ADs and let them know, this is why, and here's how it's going to impact you, but it'll save us this, this, and this on the back end, and here's why. And if the director is involved, like I've had the really great fortune of working with some directors who are just all about making sure that their visual effects look great, but B, that the process is smooth for them too. If you build it into the workflow of the movie set, then it works. If you try to just slap your tracking device on a live action camera and then expect the camera department to go be your friends and all, it's not going to work. You have to get in there early and talk to them and be friends. You know, beer buys a lot of goodwill. I mean, do whatever you can do, but be friendly. You know, it's like that, and that's. I've done pretty well for myself because I came from live action first, and I happen to know the CG stuff as well, and I happen to know how the CG workflows work. So I've been pretty fortunate in that regard. But that would be like that for me is the next evolution. The true next evolutionary leap for this stuff is having the previs team, the virtual production guys, the guys doing where the live action and the CG really mix, where the crews are mixing. It's not just a function of, you know, a bunch of dudes in some foreign country sitting on boxes, you know, clicking away. They're out there on the movie set and part of the set. Now, it can't be a huge crew. It's got to be, you know, a small crew, but that's the idea. And trust me, every show that I've been on that's gone down a path like this has ultimately been better for it, and the people have been, like, all the crew, the camera crew, the electric, the grip, all those guys, they've loved it. They've thought it was the coolest thing when you see what it actually does. If you can shoot something that's not there, you know, and really shoot it and really hold the camera and they can see it on the screen, they go, oh, duh, I get it. That's, you know, where in the past it was just like shoot some plate that didn't make any sense. You know, we're in this, these boxing rings for this robot movie I just did called Real Steel. And you know, we spent, you know, got 1,000 extras in the stands, and we're up there, and I'm up there every day with the Steadicam operator, like, okay, and he can see the robots that are boxing in the screen on there, and I'm up there with the fishing pole going, okay, guys, look up here, and I look down, you're talking to the extras, because they can't see. The camera can see, the director can see what's going on, but the extras can't. That, to me, is, if you want to talk about the next big technology that we want to do, that's going to be the next big one, is how do you show that crowd, or how do you show the actors what they want to see on the set? You know, how do you do that? You know, holograms, I don't know, you know, we're lasers, you know, all kinds of stuff there. But we've crossed the threshold now where, you know, techniques are being developed to be able to track the live action cameras, and, you know, the compositing, real-time compositing, that's been around for years. And the tool set is just coming online to enable us to really mesh those two well and to not be impactful of the live action crew. I started working for Stan Winston, the late great Stan Winston, who was just a magical guy. He designed the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. His company, Stan Winston Studios, was around for years. Terminators, Stan Winston's, all of. I started working for him as a teenager, making puppets, really. I did electrical engineering in college, and I designed the control systems. So That was kind of my start, and it was also my first foray. I would kind of occasionally get to work with Digital Domain at the time as well, because Stan was part owner in Digital Domain, so we would go back and forth between Stan Winston Studio and Digital Domain. I spent a lot of time, messing around with mechanics and figuring out how to make these. We called them Waldos or telemetry devices at the time, where you just build a small scale model of the character, and I'd grab the head of the character and move it, and then the big giant T-Rex would move. You'd basically take the potentiometer values, the analog values here, and turn it into a big hydraulic cylinder moving. And it's funny, all these techniques that you do when you're talking about animatronics, they translate directly to character rigging in CG applications. It's like a one-for-one. You learn how to, your input mechanism, forward kinematic and inverse kinematics, and how you do that. We would build those same exact rigs, only we would do them mechanically, using different ways. And then the next transition, I worked there till 2000, and then I actually went and I did video assist for a while, which is kind of a funny thing to do. I was looking for a complete career change and had my first child, and said, hey, try something different. And then I got really good at doing multi-layer compositing on set in real time for people, using like just broadcast switchers and ultimats and like sort of video hardware and things like that. So I sort of transitioned into that, and then that led to doing a lot more CG type work. I learned Maya, I learned Softimage. I started learning the other tools and Motion Builder ultimately and things like that, to enable me to do my job as a video assist guy really well. And don't knock the video assist guy. He's your friend too. But that taught me how to work on a film crew. Which I didn't really have that experience. As a puppeteer, you don't really, you make movies, but you're a specialist. It's much way the visual effects guys a lot of times are. You're a specialist. You come in to do your one little thing and then you leave. That's not part of the crew. Video assist, you're part of the crew. You're there, you're day in, day out. You're schlepping gear. You're doing everything that the rest of the guys do, and you learn a lot more about how movies get made. And then you also happen to get to see on that little window what the director's seeing. You're listening to what he's saying. You're seeing what he's seeing, and you're understanding how the movie's getting put together and why it's getting put together the way it is. And so that job for me was like an awakening in terms of like what could be done, because for me video, it's about that instant gratification for the director. It's about being able to, because I would like basically have the scenes and I would have an Avid on set, and I would cut all the material as it was coming right off the video tabs. This is when it was filmed, before it was digital. And that enabled me to learn, editing, and sort of like, then it was like, okay, well now I need to do a 15-layer composite. You just, you learn I had a smoke out there, and I'd, do what I needed to do, and, do anything I could, and I would just learn these softwares to learn specific jobs. But eventually I started doing a lot more of that, and got into a little bit more like visual effects supervising kind of work for commercials and things like that, and that led to some commercial directing, and then, so on and so forth. And eventually I did a movie called Aviator with Rob Legato, who and Scorsese obviously, but Rob Legato was the second unit director, and worked with him, did some previs with him and a guy named Oliver Hotz, and then that led to eventually Avatar, and there you go. That was my little.
So basically, background in electrical, you said electrical engineering, yeah. And then telemetry and puppets and stuff. And you could be on MythBusters. I mean, you could.
I have a shop. I mean, that's my shop. Is like my little version of MythBusters. I have.
You could build a BattleBot.
Well, that's the reason that I actually still have my shop. Is I have a full machine shop. I've got mills and lathes and all that stuff, and cameras and video gear and all that, because I can't get away from it, man. I mean, even now with the CG stuff, I'm always constantly figuring out a way to manipulate the thing that's in the computer, the visual thing that's in the computer, with some physical element. It's just faster. There's something about, and even like motion capture goes back to me. It's puppeteering, man. I just happen to be puppeteering something that's bipedal and tall, but you're puppeteering. I mean, if you look at look at the Na'vi as they're standing, their proportions are completely different. It makes you think. You start getting taller. You want to be slender. You want to walk a different way. And the cool thing about the real time sort of mirror view of what's going on is you can see yourself as that character, and it's all performance. It's all puppeteering. It all boils down to that. I mean, it all boils down to performance and ultimately creating the movie with the director in a way that enables him to do what he wants. Do it quickly. Do it instinctually, you know, which a lot of CG, it's very hard to do instinctually. You have to pre-think it. It's still a computer. You have to program it. You know, you have to go in and you have to tell it, if I'm going to do this shader, it has to do these specific lighting characteristics. Whereas if I wanted to change this light that's beaming at me over here, I'd throw a double in it, or throw a quarter gel in it. Whereas, you know, it's much more clinical in a certain degree in the CG world, by virtue of just, that's because you're emulating physical things. You have to. And so what I'm trying to do is bring some of that you know, that sort of instant gratification back to the CG world. It is, isn't it? It's cool to get into the physical. That's what I try to, when I meet kids and stuff, or I'm getting guys out of school and stuff. I really try to tell them, it's like, look, man, you know, get out and shoot. If nothing else, go get your camera and go out and shoot a short. You know, do something to physically have to, because you start thinking about things differently. You know, it becomes a grind when you have to, you know, you're doing shots. And I know, you know, people working long hours, they get bummed out. But if you go out and just grab a camera and just go shoot something, it's like this, oh my God, what an uplifting thing to be able to do. You know, and I can't suggest that enough.